My name is charlottelewis.
Okay, when she talks, I can hear it. It's just obviously when she's not talking, I hear it, but I think it won't be there.
Let's get this one more time.
Will you put it at the back?
Does it bother me?
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, if I stick it right behind you, I'm gonna stick it on the chair. And
Okay,
you're gonna
sweetheart.
hold it.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Great.
We're rolling? Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is charlottelewis, and I came forward in the year 2010 to the media about Roman Polanski raping me when I was 16 years old. When I came forward, it never occurred to me that I would not be believed. It literally didn't occur to me. The reaction that I got after I came forward was shocking, to be honest. I was called a prostitute. I was called a liar, that I must have been a seductress. Anything that you could imagine that they would call somebody who's accused somebody of raping them, they did. The media, intelligent, academics, such as Robert Harris, who's a novelist and wrote The Ghost for Roman, which was a film that Roman was just coming out at the time. Wrote an entire article for The Guardian newspaper, British newspaper, calling me a liar, a cheat, prostitute. I mean, it was actually pretty surreal. I was reading it, and it was like I was reading about somebody else, except unfortunately it wasn't about somebody else. It was about me. And I had a young child at the time. Well, I still have a young child, but he was young. He was 6 or 7 years old. And I think the worst thing about it all was the way my child got treated at the school he attended, to the point that other parents, some of whom were in the media, refused to invite my child to birthday parties, refused to ever invite me to anything, to the point that the headmaster had to have a meeting with those parents and talk about the problem at hand, and the problem at hand was me. They didn't want that woman around their family. I mean, it was, I mean, I could sit down now and talk about it with no anger, no feeling of panic-stricken or desperation, because it's been a long time, and I've got some clarity for myself in regards to it. But at the time, it affected me on so many levels. It affected me to the point that I had a nervous breakdown. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. I put upon my son my anxiety. He was also developed a pretty major anxiety disorder. It just was like kicking a hornet's nest for me, especially since I had such a simple life in London. I became pregnant in 2003, and unfortunately ended up being a single mother and raising my child alone, and moving to England to give my son a great English education and my mother was there, so I needed help, and he needed to know his grandmother, and to have a very simple life. I stopped working as an actress, and I became a full-time mother, just a full-time mummy. And the press was saying things like, the reason I've come forward was to get my 15 minutes, and I haven't done a film for 7 years, so I must be lying. It was like, well, no, I gave birth 7 years ago, and I've left Hollywood, and I'm a full-time mummy living a very simple life. So looking back now, if I could do it all over again, I would never have come forward. I would never have said anything, because I didn't have anything that the women are having now. I didn't have any support. There was no sisterhood. There was no nothing. In fact, what I had was Harvey Weinstein, who was Roman's champion, rallying his troops against me for Roman, to get Roman back into America. He had everybody sign a petition. He started a petition. So all the actors and directors and writers were on Roman's side. Not that I even thought there was a side. It just was very disturbing to read that people like Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet and Ewan McGregor were all basically supporting the child rapist. And not just from my accusation, he's a convicted child rapist. That's the reason he can't come into America. It's because he's a fugitive and he's a child rapist. Now, he was 50 and a convicted child rapist already, and I was just 16. To me, it was a story coming forward because I felt it needed to be told. At the time I told somebody, I told my best girlfriend at the time, and when Roman got rearrested in Switzerland, my girlfriend emailed the district attorney in California to tell my story. And I randomly got a phone call from the DA asking if I would give a statement. I mean, this sort of all took me off guard, but I phoned a lawyer, and it was organized that I would go to America and give a statement to the DA at great length and detail. I think it took a few hours. It was recorded. And then I gave a news conference, which I really had no idea, which was a bit stupid of me, I suppose, that this would become sort of breaking news, that it would become such a big deal. I mean, I just thought it was some information that would be helpful. The way I was treated, being called a prostitute, they were trying to accuse me of being a prostitute when I was 14. So they were trying to establish that by the time I met Roman at the tender age of just 16, that I was already some kind of professional seductress, some kind of femme fatale, if you like, which is, you know, ludicrous. I was, at 14, a very successful model, very naive teenager, actually, is what I was, who'd had one boyfriend who was also, I think, 16, maybe 2 months older than me. I didn't have a succession of men. I was never a prostitute. I didn't get want to meet older men and seduce them. I mean, reading this stuff was almost funny because it was so ridiculous. But the problem became when they were printing it in reputable newspapers and then putting it on the internet. That became a huge problem for me. It affected my life in more ways than I'm even prepared to talk about. But it affected me in a way that it should never have happened. There should have been some guideline. There should have been some support for me. There should have been something, and there was nothing. So recently, when all these accusations with Weinstein and whoever have come out, and everybody's applauding these actresses for being so brave, and oh my God, you know, they were teenagers when they were like 20, 21. It was like, well, hold on a second. I didn't come forward in 1710. I came forward in 2010. It was only 7 years ago. What culture has, what's the difference? There is no difference. I mean, the Weinstein story is, you know, maybe if they'd have listened to me in 2010, taken what I said seriously rather than spending all their energy condemning me, actually trying to find out the truth, actually doing some investigative journalism rather than just Googling things to try and figure out who I was. They couldn't even get my nationality right. And then accusing me, the funny one was accusing me of having been an actress before I met Roman. They've accused me of being in a television show in England from 1978, so I would have been 11. So by the time I met Roman, apparently, I was this go-getter, you know, this real ambitious, you know, experienced 16-year-old. Well, that's just not how it was. I haven't talked about it until now because what was the point? I didn't think anybody would believe what I had to say. I felt a lot of, not shame, because I had nothing to be ashamed of, but I felt frustration, and there was nothing I could do about it. Google refused to take these ridiculous interviews that I never gave off the internet, phoning the editors of the papers to try and reason with them. They're obviously intelligent people. Try and reason with them. Like, I'm a single mother. I'm a woman. You can't go around calling somebody a prostitute when they weren't a prostitute. I don't know. Maybe you can call someone a prostitute who was a prostitute. I really don't know the law, but there is probably nothing worse you can do to a woman than call her a woman that would sell herself for money when you're the complete opposite kind of woman. I mean, I never compromised myself with any man, ever, my entire life. And I think part of why I've been so adamantly independent and I've never been married is because of what happened to me with Roman when I was so young. I met Roman, I was in French Elle and French Vogue at the time. I was a model. And I was in my model agency in London. And it was like the top model agency. So we had all the top girls. I was the youngest. And I met a girl called Alyssa Karin, who was known as EK at the time. And she mentioned, did I want to be an actress? Had I ever thought of being an actress? And I was like, well, I did a school play. You know, I did a school play. I did about 10 commercials I had done. So I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. Sure. And then she explained that she had a friend called Roman Polanski, who was a film director, who was looking for a lead lady, like a Spanish princess, like a 17th century Spanish princess. And I was like, oh, I could probably do that. Anyway, we went to Paris. We stayed in a hotel, some really cheap, pretty nasty hotel, but, you know, kids, it was fine. Met Roman. I think that night, it was that night, because we never ended up sleeping in the hotel. He took us for dinner. After the dinner, he suggested that the hotel wasn't good enough, that it was dangerous to stay in the hotel. and that we should stay in his apartment in another room. So me and EK, Alyssa, Karen, shared a room. Which we did. I mean, there was no reason to think anything. He seemed really nice. First time he met me, walked into his apartment, and he did this thing with his hands where he sort of, you know, like did this sort of framing thing. I mean, I suppose, I mean, looking back now, it was like, I mean, I suppose it was a bit of a jerky thing to do, but, you know, I'm 16, what do I know? You know, like framing me to see what I would look like, you know, in the camera angle or lens or whatever. He was really nice. He managed, even though he was much older, he managed to talk to me in a way that made me feel very comfortable. He managed in a short period of time to get information out about myself, that I didn't have a father, that I didn't have a brother or an uncle or grandfather, and that my mother's boyfriend I didn't like. So I felt quite relaxed, almost happy. And we went for dinner, and after the dinner, we were in the living room area, and EK went to bed, and well, that was when Roman raped me. I didn't, at the time, really know what to say, but to Alyssa, I didn't have to say much because he'd given me something to drink and he'd given me a pill because I was very upset, and that was to calm me down. And then in the morning, I stayed with him in the room. He had this thing where he would like press a button and all of the windows would be covered with some kind of iron shield, including a doorway. And then in the morning, I went back to see EK. No, she came knocking on the door, because even though we were in the same apartment, it was the spare room was next to his apartment, so she would have had to have come knocking on the door to come in. So there wasn't like another exit. I couldn't have exited easily. And she gave a witness statement to the DA, and even her recollection was probably better than mine from her standpoint, from her point of view, what I was, what I looked like, how I was acting. I was groggy. I was disheveled. I wasn't happy. I knew something wasn't right, that something not good had happened, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't see Roman again until a few weeks later, when the producers phoned me, or my agents, my model agents, and my mom, to ask if I would come back for a screen test, for which I did. But I didn't stay, obviously, with Roman. I was put actually I was put in the producer's house with his wife. And so it was all fine. Again, I think about 9 months went past until I actually had to see Roman again. I got the role, but I went straight into training. I went straight into rehearsing. So all of my rehearsals and my teachers were all in England. So I was in England training. So the media tried to make it that I had this relationship with him in England or Paris, which is odd because he's not allowed in England. And that I wanted this relationship. That was one story. Then the other story was, how could I have possibly seen him again after this awful thing had happened? Well, A, I didn't know what had happened. And B, I didn't have to see him for I'd say 9 months to a year. I was just 16 when I did the screen test. I was 17 when we started the film, and I was 18 when we finished.
When you did see him again, the first time you saw him again after the rape, how did you feel?
I've always wanted Roman to say, well done, or, I don't know, I suppose there's a syndrome for it where the person that's abused you, you want them to like you, you want their approval. I don't remember the name of it. What is it called?
Stockholm syndrome. Yeah,
Stockholm syndrome. I for some reason really wanted to do well for him. I really wanted him to say, good girl. Even when we were doing the movie, I just wanted to please him. I wanted to do well. I wanted him to be proud of me. He was very abusive to me verbally on the film set. And he hit me really hard once on the film set, slapped me so hard across the face that there was a handprint, because the makeup department had quite a job trying to get it to go away. I don't know, I think that I was confused. I think that there was so much going on at that time. Until we actually started shooting the film, you know, I was kept so busy with my teacher. They'd got me a teacher from RADA, speech, sword fighting, the fittings for the costumes took months. So I was sent to Italy a lot on my own. I think when I did see him, part of me felt like he always seemed to put things in order. It always seemed a bit chaotic to me. But whatever I felt about him, what had happened, got taken over by the fact that he was, you know, like you couldn't pick up a glass without him telling you how to pick up the glass. Like if I was eating a meal, he would tell me, you're eating it the wrong way. You hold your knife and fork this way. Don't eat that. Like he took over. I suppose he just took over. And he took over for a really long time. Even when I got Golden Child, a movie I did opposite Eddie Murphy, he was still controlling me because he would phone me and tell me how to, I would tell him about some of the scenes and he would tell me how to act, what to do. And whenever I would see him afterwards, like when the Cannes Film Festival opened Pirates, I went back to being like a little girl. I mean, I was a little girl still. Well, I wasn't. I was 18, I suppose. I don't know if that's a little girl these days. Or was I 19 when it came out? Anyway, whatever. No, I was 18 because they had to get permission from Paramount for me to go because I was still shooting the movie, Golden Child. I went right back to being that really kind of scared, vulnerable, waiting to be told what to do. So it's a tricky question. I mean, I suppose a normal rape, whatever that is, would be you're attacked, you're beaten, your clothes are ripped off, you're left for dead, and then the police come. But it wasn't that rape. It was a different rape.
You made me want to ask you, Whoopi Goldberg once said on The View, well, there's rape, but people, that they say it's rape, it's someone they know.
Yeah, was it rape? Rape.
And then there's rape, but it's not rape.
Yeah, she's an idiot, yeah. I mean, please. At the time when I heard that, I just thought, oh, for God's sake. I mean, she's just a bit of an idiot, really. That's all I have to say about Whoopi Goldberg.
It seems it was a really complex relationship.
Very complex. And a lot of times I did give interviews where I would say very nice things about him because I didn't really have a choice. I had people standing over me. And I still would want him, even when I'm giving an interview and I'm not shooting Golden Child anymore, I'm not being told what to do by him on the phone, I would still want him to read things that I'd let him off the hook. That he would see that I had let him off the hook for what he did. That I knew what he had done, he knew what he had done, but I didn't want him to get into more trouble. It's really kind of bizarre. And I thought, well, he'll like me more if I haven't told anybody.
It's interesting, it feels like he really had this hold on you, as you're saying, and you wanted to still get his approval and almost protect him, but then...
I did, and that is a really good word, protect him. And I believed when I came forward that honestly I would guess that he would just simply say that he was sorry about what happened when I was 16. And I thought that would be that. I was in Paris with a very dear friend of mine, Mikhail Brishnikov, and my son, and who was, I guess, 6 at the time, and Roman hadn't been rearrested. And Misha, it's a nickname we call him, Misha told me that Roman's daughter had just turned 16. And I don't know why that affected me. But it did. It really did. And I don't know why it affected me. It brought it all back to me. And then we driven past the old apartment, which he still lives in apparently. And then I think the combination of now being a mother and thinking, God, I hope nothing ever happens to my child when they're a teenager. And then it occurred to me, my God, I was a teenager. Oh my God, hold on a second. I think it was that. I think it was a simple primal feeling of feeling bad for me as a child, as a woman now, even wondering, because I suppose part of me for a really long time always thought, I'm a bad person, there's something wrong, maybe there's something wrong with me, you know, this was something that you should never tell anybody. I mean, I would, in dinner parties, defend him, even until before I had my child. I think a lot changed when I became a mother. I mean, of course, everything changed when I became a mother. I changed when I became a mother.
If you were to try to find something positive that came out of this whole experience, what would it be?
If I had to find something positive that came out of this whole experience, what would it be? Well, I'm pretty strong. And quite proud of myself, of how I've handled the situation. I've handled the situation like a lady. And I suppose that the best thing that came out of this was getting to know more about me and what I'm capable of and who I am, my strength. And I suppose that makes me a better woman, and that makes me a better mother. I mean, they say there are no mistakes. What happened to me after I came forward should never happen to another woman, period. And honestly, I don't think it would. Not in the media, not an actress. It might happen to a woman who's accused somebody of raping her when the pub closed. I'm sure that they'll get accused of their skirt was too short, were they drunk, you know. But I think that the cycle of treating actresses as a free-for-all, an easy target, if they come forward about a man abusing them or hitting them or whatever, I think those days have long gone. And honestly, I'm grateful for that. And if I had to be the one that was thrown in front of the bus, at least I was strong enough that I could take the bus. So.
How can you give hope to others who may have experienced what you've gone through?
How can I give hope to others who may have experienced what I've gone through? I don't know. All I can do is tell the truth. I have had people who have come forward who've asked me to help them. Even people they wanted me to sit in on press conferences, and I said no, mainly because I don't want my child doesn't want me to do anything breaking news press conference or something that could be released all over the world in a second. So, I mean, the way it's such a difficult one, because part of me, if I could turn the clock back, I mean, it's so hard because part of me really regrets coming forward and telling the truth because of how it affected my child. But then the other part is really proud of myself. Would I, if a girl came up to me now and said, should I come forward? I mean, I told them that only they can answer that question, that I would be supportive no matter what, but I can't advise on whether somebody should come forward or not. It depends on the circumstances, and there will always be consequences. There does seem to be, you know, in numbers, some value in numbers. So it's like, you can't believe that one actress got raped, but you can believe that 20 did. It's like, that's so ridiculous to me, but apparently it shouldn't take 20 women coming forward accusing somebody of raping them to be believed. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just so grateful that I have a boy and not a girl. I mean, I don't know what I would tell somebody, or if I had a daughter that... I have no idea, to be honest. I can't really answer that question.
You've said that you want Roman to get what he deserves. What do you think he deserves?
I think the fact that he's so arrogant about it all, that he... What does he deserve? Well, I can only talk about my own experience. I mean, part of me would like to have seen him gone to prison, but he's an old man. I mean, and I think he probably got a bit of a shock with the whole Weinstein situation. I'm sure that was like not the best day for him when he heard about that, because it kind of, it put a little bit of another nail in the coffin. That his whole original rape case isn't just going to go away, which he actually had given an interview stating that, oh, that's all over, and then boom, 2 weeks later, the whole Harvey Weinstein thing came to light, and I don't know. I have a, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's already happened to him. I'm sure he doesn't sleep well at night. I feel sorry for his family. I feel really bad for his children. It's not their fault. And you know, the other thing about it isn't like some, you know, I think people also have this idea now that every powerful man in Hollywood is horrible, and they're not. There are a lot of really good, powerful men here that aren't abusive, that aren't rapists, and that don't harass women. I don't know what I would want to happen. It's not for me to want anything bad to happen to him, or I'm kind of indifferent, but I am happy that it isn't quite over for him. You know, Jack Nicholson, for example, is one of the nicest men I've ever met in my life. He's a perfect gentleman. He's a fantastic guy. You know, you have that kind of guy from that era that weren't all like Roman, and guys now who aren't like Mr. Weinstein. There are, you know, there are good people, there are good apples and there are bad apples. And, but Hollywood isn't made up of a bunch of horrible people. You know, it's made up of all kinds of people. And with all kinds of people comes some bad people. Like in any field. You know, it's just obviously the spotlight gets put onto us because it's Los Angeles and it's the film business. But it's not, oh my God, everybody in the film business is horrible. That's just completely not true. I mean, it's ludicrous to think. I mean, I've worked with some of the most amazing, fabulous directors who are kind and great men and married or happily married with lovely families. And I've worked with lovely actors, Eddie Murphy, James Spader, you know, really great guys. You know, I've been very lucky. And I was very lucky when I modeled because I think because I was so young and did so well so quickly, I was always very protected in that world. I never had any, I think that's why I was probably quite trusting of Roman also, because nothing bad had ever happened to me. But I was always a very sweet teenager. I remember when I used to have to work, I would stay with my agents. I wouldn't go out with the other girls, you know, to a nightclub. I would want to stay with my agent and her the young child, and help them do the dishes. I was that person. I wasn't out at clubs, and I wasn't some crazy wild child. I certainly wasn't some streetwalker. Which is just still quite funny. It is funny. I mean, it's funny and it's not funny. It's not funny when you have to sit down and explain to your 13-year-old son why they're saying you're a prostitute on the internet. But if somebody's meets me, and they read about me, and they believe it, and that they want to take that on board, then they're not the person for me. So, that I've come to terms with. I remember being told that if you're not a big enough girl to have sex with me, then you're not a big enough girl to do the screen test. And that you have to be a big girl because it's a big responsibility and it's time to grow up now and be a woman. Just like, wow.
You mentioned that like he really made you feel comfortable that night and like very understood.
He did, and then it turned pretty quickly from me being very comfortable to being cornered, painted in the corner. I don't know, more cornered. It was very predatory. Is that the right word? Predatory. It was like a lot of shaming me into doing something that I didn't want to do, actually forcing me, pushing my head. Ugh. Doing things I hadn't done. he got angry with me because I was so shy. He said, and I will never forget, that he hadn't seen any behavior like mine since the war, when women had to change into their night dresses in front of other people. I guess when the war, when they were in bunkers or something. How women were so shy with themselves. It kind of happened pretty quickly, and it wasn't violent, and there wasn't pain. It was, I knew that I knew that something had happened that shouldn't have happened.
And then, tell me about the kind of mental gymnastics that you went through after that to try to kind of make it okay, to try to find a way, because all this good came out of it with you then working with him and launching your career, and I'm sure that part of that.
Well, I developed an eating disorder pretty soon after. I lost a lot of weight really quickly, to the point that it was a big problem for the film set. For the costumes, not the film set, the costumes. Because the first time that they'd seen me, I was getting thinner and thinner. And the eating disorder was so bad during the making of the film that they had to hire somebody to watch me eat and to stay with me, because I was not keeping my food in my system. That's when I did eat. I remember him telling me, screaming at me because I'd gotten too thin, saying that I did it to ruin his film, that I was doing it out of spite. Nothing I ever did was right. It was like nothing. Occasionally, after scenes we do, he would say, "God, that was amazing, that was great. We got it in one take." I managed to do a lot of my scenes in one take. And they were kind of nicknaming me One Take Lewis, which I thought was bad. I thought, I wasn't doing well enough, so it's like $100 million movie. It's like, of course we could take more than one take, but he was quite happy with what we got. But I think that I made it, apart from telling my girlfriend Angela, and obviously Alyssa at the time, both of whom gave very graphic written testimonies to the DA, which would come under perjury if they were lying. And I don't believe that these two girls want to go to jail for me. So that was another two things that never got mentioned, that there were witness statements. I think that I probably just pushed it really far down, and it probably affected every relationship I've had with a man since. Maybe not now, because now I'm at so much peace with myself. I don't feel that I have any demons living rent-free inside me. I'm a very grateful person. I'm very grateful to be alive. I'm very grateful for everything.
How did it affect your relationships?
With men?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was never going to let anybody use me again. I was never going to ever let anyone touch my body again, that I didn't want them, in a relationship, if my partner wanted sex and I didn't want it, it wasn't going to happen. I never really saw, it was very protective of my body. I've left probably every relationship I've been in. Obviously there's a couple that have broken my heart, I'm not going to lie. But the majority I've never loved, even though I might have said I love you. I don't really think I knew what that was. I think relationships to me, how they used to be with men were more about control. And honestly, until I gave birth to a boy, my respect level for men wasn't really very high. I think I thought of most men as idiots. That's terrible. I didn't really take men too seriously. I mean, gosh, it sounds like I was a terrible person. I think that every man I ever met probably got the brunt of it, which is very sad, because I have met some lovely people.
How has it affected the way you've raised your son?
I have raised him to not take any nonsense from anybody. I've been a bit of a sergeant major. He's in boarding school now. He's in probably the best boarding school in the world. He's a very fortunate child. And I believe that it's good for him to be in the boarding school because he needs to have male authoritative figures around him that he respects. Because there was no male figures around him when he was growing up, apart from his godfather. But I never had a boyfriend. I mean, I did, but nobody came in between me and my child. Miles didn't have the mother that would, this is my new boyfriend. There was nothing like that. I was very like a Leo, like a lion with her cub. Super, almost overly protective, to the point that I was probably very overbearing. So boarding school again is the best thing for him so that he can be himself, because I was projecting so much of my fear onto him and talking to him as an adult. I never kind of babied him. I was very much, you shake someone's hand, you hold their hand tight, you shake firmly, you look people in the eyes, don't trust people, I mean, I was probably kind of creating some kind of soldier for the world, and he is like that. He's never going to take any prisoners, that child. He's a fantastic human being. Sometimes I wonder where the hell he came from, because he's so politically correct, he's so intelligent, he's so charming, he's so thoughtful. He can see both sides of the problem, and in many ways, he's sort of kind of like a bit of a parent to me, which some therapists probably have quite a bit to say about that. But
well, tell me how the whole Polanski ordeal has affected your career.
Oh my God, coming forward about Roman Polanski ruined my career. Because of the aftermath, because of the media, how they projected me as a liar, an opportunist. An opportunist for what? A liar, again, calling me a prostitute when I was 14, saying that I said it myself, accusing me of having told News of the World that I used to be a prostitute at the age of 14, which is ridiculous. And anybody worth their weight, any investigative journalist can come and do some digging and do some investigative work and find it, go for it. I mean, it's so ridiculous. But it's not funny because it's there and there's nothing I can do about it. I can't get it off the internet. My son does go to a very prestigious school in England, and you know, I get scared to become too friendly with people and the parents, and it's best I do stay out of a lot of the engagements and what have you. But that being said, I have become quite friendly with one parent who's a lawyer, but again, you know, a fabulous woman who I explained the situation to and can see it totally the way a normal human being would, not somebody who's sycophantic or the kind of people that would buy People magazine and read the article about, you know, or Heat magazine or any of those ridiculous magazines. You know, oh, they're an actress, they did that, it must be true. Well, being an actress is a job. It's a job. It's a job. It's a fabulous job. It's the best job in the world. I love it. I loved being an actress. I loved working, and you know, that all the confidence was just knocked right out of me until recently. And I put myself into a master class, and my confidence has just come shining through. And you know, if people don't hire me because of me coming forward against Roman Polanski, well, shame on them. You know, and there's nothing I can do about that. I can just hope for the best and do the legwork and do my side, keep my side of the street clean. And hopefully, God willing, I go back to work. I need to go back to work. I have a child to support, so it would be pretty great to do that. I mean, I think if you'd have interviewed me 3 years ago, or even 2 years ago, you would have got a totally different interview. Because I was in so much turmoil inside, so much anger. But I feel at peace with myself. On a daily basis, I feel at peace.
Great. That's great. You got it.
Yeah.
You got a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Good.
Good.